it's birthday time for your father. Would have been 82, and that's why we're talking to you today about the 82nd birthday celebration. I know it's up there.
I can't believe it. I mean, I can't believe it. My pop, I still feel him around, and I know I lost him a long time ago, but he was only 45 when we lost him, which is just crazy because now I'm 54. And so, I've outlived him for a while now, but the amount of unbelievable music that he left behind and television and radio and movies and what a guy. But in spite of all that, the thing is he was just such a good guy. He really was a sweetheart. And for the ladies out there, I have, my brother's got teenage daughters that kind of come over and see pictures of our dad and just they all freeze and go, who is that? He was good looking.
What do you think he would be doing today if he were still with us?
You know what I think? Honestly, I genuinely think that Pop would be performing. He just loved playing music, and I think he would still, honestly, he'd look great. He'd be a silver fox. He would have let his hair just go salt and pepper because a lot of men in the family, that's what happened to him. Mm-hmm. And he would be singing really well, and I think Gunnar and I would probably spend a bunch of our time playing with him, being in his band and backing him up. It would be probably a family affair kind of thing. We'd still do our music, but that way we could, always just kind of hang out with our dad. And I think that would have been a lot of fun. And, that's my fantasy parallel universe. You know what I mean? But when I miss him, I put on his music. And for the last year, we've been restoring the Nelson show, Ozzie and Harriet, in 4K in high def. And so I've been visiting with him a lot and remixing some of his songs. And at least I have that. It's quite a blessing.
And I'm probably the 1,762,000th person to ask this question, but if he doesn't pass, does your career as Nelson happen the way it does same track, or is it, again, that's talk about parallel universes.
Right.
What is it? What happens then?
Now, first of all, absolutely amazing question. That really is probably the best question I've gotten ever in an interview, because Gunnar and I talk about that all the time, and the answer is a resounding no. Nelson would not have happened the way that it did. It might not have ever happened at all, because we were jettisoned into the world. I mean, one day we're living with our dad after, reconnecting with him. It's not that we lost touch. It's just that our parents, when we were growing up, they had a horrible divorce, and we had to live with our mother, and on our 18th birthday moved in with him. We lost him only 3.5 months after that. But in those 3.5 months, we really got to know him. But when he passed away, it was suddenly, and Gunnar and I were just kicked out in the world, like, okay, go find a place to live, go find a way to make make money, and I know you've got your band that you've been working on for years, but, you're really on your own. I mean, starkly on our own. And so God put Gunnar and I in the world together, and we really look at it that way. We needed each other. We were really blessed with that. We always had our dream of music, and we were close, but close enough to where we did Saturday Night Live and chose on the way home to disband what we were doing and restart it with Gunnar. He was on the drums back then. He came up and started singing with me, and we really focused on songwriting, because we learned, and you look at our dad's career, it was all about hit songs. Yeah, he was great looking. He had a TV show, but his songs were undeniably awesome. And so we learned how to write, and we were really focused. I mean, basically, music for us was not a hobby. It was our salvation, and it was our true love. And I think that it rescued us out of the despair of losing our best friend the way that we did. I mean, I found out about it on the car radio and Gunnar on television. So there was a lot of, for our whole lives, it was, a lot of adversities in a lot of people's lives. We're no different. But we chose to rise above it through music. And that's why our first album, called After the Rain, for a reason, was about overcoming all of that and never quitting. And I think that's the Nelson legacy, truly, is we just don't quit.
He had his final studio album in 85, obviously. And what's kind of fascinating about that, thinking of how music has gone since then, doing new studio versions, that's been done by so many artists over the past few decades. They come back and revisit their music for all varying sorts of reasons. That seems to be one of the earlier examples. I mean, unless you go back to like the Sinatra era of you'll do multiple versions of songs, but that's just what you did. But to then explicitly say, I'm going to take these old recordings, I'm going to do, or these old songs, do them again.
Well, you know why they did that. I mean, there's really a very, very simple
Yeah.
reason why artists have done that. And that's because the record companies had a stranglehold on their masters.
Right.
So what they did was in their recording contracts, and people don't know this, but there's something called the re-record restriction. And if you don't have a re-record restriction, these artists, especially our dad, kind of was one of the first guys to kind of do it. He went in and he re-sang and recut and redid his early songs, the ones that frankly made all the money. And that way he could license them or put them on a record, as you mentioned, and all that stuff. And it was something that, you know, these big mega record companies had gotten to the point where they really didn't care about legacy artists too much anymore. And so they were basically withering on the vine. It was my dad's way kind of taking his life and his music back. And it's kind of a drag that you have to do that, you know. Gunnar and I, frankly, we're just at that point because we've been around long enough with our songs, our hit songs and stuff have come back to that time. And we were able to negotiate with our record company to be partners, joint venture kind of thing. But back then, they just weren't budging. So, you know, I hand it to guys like our dad and all of those. Roy Orbison did it. A lot of people that were the pioneers kind of went back, and as you said, they recut their songs. And the only drag is obviously, you know, our dad was 16 or 17 years old when he cut his original hits. You know, I mean, Traveling Man, Hello Mary Lou, he was 21. And, you know, you throw a couple of decades of touring and, you know, Spring Menthol 100 cigarettes, and your voice changes a little bit. And he struggled with that a little bit on that. They didn't have any kind of technology at all to fix it in the mix or computer stuff. It was not that era. So it was a real effort. And, you know, it's kind of neat looking back on it now that, you know, it's like I said, we don't quit. You just figure out a way. It's like you're Marine. You adapt, you overcome. And that's how they did it.
So would he? Do you again speculation here? But over the past, getting almost close to 4 decades now, what do you see his recorded output have being over that time? Would he have done new music? Would he have done other recordings either of his music, or would he have started to do, like, you know, how the Great American Songbook has kind of become a thing of other artists re-recording? Around that time was when Linda Ronstadt was kind of first starting to do that again in the 80s.
Sure, and Rod Stewart did it as well.
Yeah. What do you think he would have done?
You know, I'm pretty certain he probably would have done at least one of those types of records, and probably because Linda and Rod and all those people did it, and it wasn't kind of as uncool as it used to be. So I think that probably somebody would have talked him into that, like a Clive Davis or something like that. I mean, the thing that was cool about our pop was that he genuinely kind of was the full package. You know, he had quite a history and you know, decades in the business, but he was always great looking. He was always really super humble. I mean, if you ever got to meet him, he's a really sweethearted man and very kind. And I think that he would have probably done that, but I honestly believe that he would have gotten back to you sitting in a room with his guitar and writing a song and then creating a sound around it. He was actually a very good producer. People don't realize this or give him credit for it as much as he should get, but when he started out, there was no such thing as a record producer. You had to kind of make it up. It was so early. I mean, talking 57, you know, and record producers came in the 60s when, you know, frankly, they wanted these bands that were getting high all the time to kind of focus and not blow the budget. So they would bring somebody in that was like a babysitter that would help them guide their music for the most part. But in the beginning, it was our dad and maybe our grandfather, Ozzy, that he was bouncing ideas off of because Ozzy was a band leader, so he knew music. But they made it up. And then with things like, you know, by the time he got to the Stone Canyon Band, frankly, people had kind of largely forgotten about him at the big company he was at, which was MCA. So he produced albums like Garden Party himself. It was just him. So he was kind of like, he was like Prince, who basically he was friends with, by the way. But he was like that, and nobody ever knew that about him. He was really astute at getting behind a recording console and knew what sound was, how to make his voice in particular sound a certain way. You know, he would always get crazy if somebody tried to throw something called a compressor on his voice because he liked the nuances that those kind of gizmos killed. And, you know, so I think honestly he would have, I think he would have had a varied career. He definitely wouldn't have given up performing because that's what he loved more than anything. I think he would have taken a little bit of a break. Actually, when we lost him, the irony there was he had just told us that he wanted to stay home and spend more time with us and work with our music as our producer, and then we lost him. So I don't think that he ever would have stopped playing music. And I think he would have. The one thing that was really hobbling him was his incessant touring schedule. He was on the road for over 300 days a year. And at a certain point, there is burnout. You got to take some time. And he never got to that point. But I definitely think that his music would have been very interesting and very viable, actually.
When you said Prince, I perked up immediately. Here in western Wisconsin, we're not that far from the Twin Cities, and you can definitely tell, as popular as Prince is in general, you start to get in this territory, and the fandom picks up even more so just because of geography. So how did
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
I know. It's such excellent music. It's nonstop. I'm so glad we're getting all... I mean, I wish Prince were still with us, but I'm glad we're getting all the vault stuff.
I do too.
How did
Gunnar and I actually had a little encounter with Prince. I'll tell you about in a second. But go ahead and ask your question.
Well, the encounter. So how did your dad know, and then go on with how you ran into Prince with Gunnar?
From what I understand from my father's manager, Prince was a big fan of my dad's, and he actually asked to meet our father and went and just introduced himself and started playing my dad's hits to him, like he knew the records. Prince just picked up a guitar and just started singing Ricky Nelson songs. So I thought that was really good. I didn't know that until recently, but when we lost our father, Gunnar and I were asked to do a tribute for him that year. It was 1986, the height of Purple Rain. And Prince was presenting an award or something. He had these massive bodyguards and stuff like that. He was a huge deal. And Dick Clark, who was putting on the show, the American Music Awards, asked us to sing a song to our dad. And after it was done, he said, "Is there anybody that you want to meet?" And Gunnar and I, for some reason, said, well, Julian Lennon was there. It would be interesting to see him, and talk about his dad and stuff. And we had a really not good encounter with that. I think he was imbibing in certain things that made him not a very nice person, and he completely blew us off, like resoundingly, horribly blew us off. And like so much so that Dick Clark looked at us and said, "I'm so sorry," and we just went, "That's okay." We kind of shrugged it off, and we were backstage in this tiny little thing, and we came around a corner, Gunnar and I, and ran face to face, like 2 feet away from Prince and these massive bodyguards were behind him. And we had just we had just sung our acoustic song, our tribute to our dad, and he looked at us back and forth and just said, "I like your sound. Keep doing it." And he kind of gave us a nod and he walked by. And it was like, oh my gosh. It was kind of like getting a blessing from the Pope. I mean, seriously, I'm getting chills thinking about it. I mean, I loved Prince, still do. When I saw the thing that he did at the Super Bowl, which I honestly play once a year just to get inspired, to show an audience of people that didn't grow up with him, largely, he just owned it. And then it started raining as he's singing Purple Rain. I mean, that, it's just, I'm getting chills. Those are those people that, it's like when I met Paul McCartney. It's the same thing. It's just, there are very few people that I can say are not of this world, and he's one of them.
Oh, my gosh.
True, nothing but absolute, total respect for Prince.
Oh, wow, that is such a blessing, such a nod. Prince
saying
that.
And it was right before we really kind of got our stuff together. And the funny thing was, we look back all these years later, my brother and I, every major break we've ever had has always come down to the two brothers singing with two acoustic guitars. From frankly, kicking the door down after years of negotiations and, telling a guy at the record company, just sit down, we wrote a song. And we sang Love and Affection, which turned out to be a number one song for us. Or, we played to 65,000 people that came to just see us with two acoustic guitars and singing. And as much as we dress it up or whatever, that still is the thing that just does it. And I think it goes back to that day with Prince, and he knew what was good. And Gunnar and I actually, we did a video at Paisley Park at his studio there. It was our fourth video for our song "Only Time Will Tell," and just the whole vibe and all that. Anybody that's a musician or a songwriter or an entertainer, and he was all of them. To have a guy that, imagine being in his band, as good as you are, and he had the best players you could possibly find. He was better than you. And he would demonstrate it by doing the round robin. It's like, okay, now he's playing the drums. Okay, now he's doing the bass solo. Okay, now he's playing lead guitar. By the way, amazing lead guitar player. So I could talk about Prince for a long time, but he's a real inspiration.
Oh, boy. Yeah. It's never ending what we hear about him. So traditions in your family from the last interview with you and when I talked to Gunnar a few years ago are big. What were birthdays like with your father over the years?
Well, when he was there, he was touring an awful lot. Towards the end, when we were a little older, we would actually go out with him if we could. If he was playing a show, I remember there was one time we were playing he was playing in Houston at a place called Astro World. I don't even think they have it anymore.
Ah, yes, yes, right by the Astrodome and such. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So we're thinking, hey, this is going to be a great way of spending our birthday with our dad and, with our friends. We loved his band. It was our second family. And, hit the rides between shows. I think he was doing 3 little shows that day. That's usually what they do at those theme parks. They've got a main stage. They do like a half-hour show so people can get back on the rides and, buying merchandise and stuff. So he was doing great, and we were going on the rides, and, it was fun having him on there. We could just go on this American Eagle or whatever it was 9 times. And I was a kid, so I could do that back then. So anyways, we were having a great time, and we'd go back. We went back to the hotel, and there's a tradition in our family that he started. He was a big Three Stooges fan. And, a lot of bands talk about things that they used to do on the road to just kind of pass the time. Some of it okay and some of it not so okay. But, you hear those stories about people destroying hotel rooms and all that. And they did that once. And I think, I don't know if you've ever heard the old rock and roll story about I think in the movie Rockstar, where the maid walks in the room and the room has been epoxied upside down on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they did that once.
Oh.
They were the pioneers of that, which I thought was hysterical. But that was kind of his sense of humor, And this time, he, as a Three Stooges fan, there were always whipped cream pie fights, and so the tradition was if you were a Nelson male. You didn't know when you were going to get it, but sometime during the day you're going to get a whipped cream pie to the face. And he got so good at this. He was the master of it because it wasn't really a throw. It was more of a placement because it has to be fast enough to get there and slow enough to where your brain goes, what is that? Is that a pie? Right before it hits you. You know what I mean? Because your reflex is if it's too fast, you duck.
Right.
So it's a real art. Okay. I highly recommend you try this in your family. Okay. Because we were at the hotel with the band, and there was a massive pie fight with the band and everybody got nailed or whatever, but it wasn't really our birthday pie because we hadn't really gotten a very personal happy birthday pie. And Gunnar and I were hanging with our dad after it was all over, laughing about it. And, a couple hours after that, we were getting ready to go to, a dinner at Noggles or something, get some burgers and stuff like that. And he was shaving. And for about a half an hour, he was sitting there talking to us about school and our band and what's going on. And he kind of put his head in the sink, and he acted like he cut himself. And he went, ow, ow. And we were like, Pop, are you okay? And he had 2 pies in the sink for half an hour. And he just kind of turned around very slowly and went, happy birthday. And we both got it. He was a master. He was the Yoda of the birthday pie. So that's still a tradition that we have today. And, Gunnar and I, it's funny, we do a Christmas show every year where at the end of it we kind of run a little kind of tapestry of our lives in video. And I have an incident where I just nail my brother with his birthday pie, and it's just a perfect placement, completely square, destroy him. And that's in our show, just as a little homage to the birthday celebration.
Did he have any, in terms of desserts or whatnot, well, it could very well be the Three Stooges whipped cream pies, but were there
ice cream?
Oh, okay. That was the
Ice
traditional thing to eat on his birthday.
Brother, ice cream is a Nelson tradition for all of us. So much so, Grandpa Ozzy used to work at an ice cream shop called Reed and Coops, which he wound up managing. He would break the Ozzy and Harriet show on Fridays early to take the entire crew, which is 35 people, and treat them to ice cream at Baskin Robbins when they had those stores. Our dad was he just loved ice cream. There was always a couple of pints in the freezer. Coffee was his and when Haagen-Dazs happened, oh my gosh, he went to heaven. So then Gunnar and I, speaking of, came up. My first really good job that I got while I was in high school was working at a Haagen-Dazs store when they had them. I managed a Haagen-Dazs store for 2 years. I hired Gunnar to sweep the floors because we loved ice cream so much. And here we are all these years later. People don't know this, but our grandfather Ozzy's ice cream scoop is in the Smithsonian because they had ice cream on the show so many times that they put that ice cream scooper in the Smithsonian.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, there's no question whatsoever. And before he died, he actually had plans and was talking to developers for a bunch of malt shops called Ricky's, and it wound up being something in Southern California called Ruby's, which they still have to this day. But that's what those developers did. They went ahead with it, and it was a big success. So, yeah, we're an ice cream family, and that was his jam, was coffee ice cream.
Coffee ice cream. Fascinating. Yep. Considering all the mocha ice creams was that right about the first time there was, like you mentioned with Haagen-Dazs, and of course all the varieties. So was that like the beginning of the multiple wild variety of ice cream flavor thing beyond vanilla and chocolate, strawberry, etc.?
I don't know. I think Baskin Robbins kind of beat everybody to it a little bit. I mean, there was an episode of Ozzie and Harriet. It's a very famous one. It was called Tutti Frutti. And it was the whole show, half an hour, was based on my grandfather Ozzie having a craving for Tutti Frutti ice cream, whatever that was. It was just called Tutti Frutti. And so they spent the whole time going to, stores were all sold out, and of course that was a precursor to things like Seinfeld. They could do an entire show around a bicycle because it was all about the people, not the thing that they were going for. Mm-hmm. But Baskin Robbins, because of the success of the Ozzie and Harriet episode, came out with Tutti Frutti ice cream that week because it was so resounding. They had so many requests in Baskin Robbins, this big store, for Tutti Frutti ice cream. They had to create it because of that. So to this day, I got to tell you, I have not myself experienced Tutti Frutti ice cream, but I have a feeling it's out there, and this makes me want to, go to my local. There is a Baskin Robbins store here in Franklin, Tennessee, just to see if they ever, if they don't have it, when they stopped making it. It was probably right around when the Ozzie and Harriet show ended in '66.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now to see if I'm not seeing anything immediately. So it might.
It's been a while, I'm sure. It's probably been decades, but
there are the copycat ice cream recipe ones are out there, so you might be able to recreate it.
Oh, we probably could. I do know that, of course, Ben and Jerry's is kind of they're the guys that are really doing, literally, they should have a flavor they probably do called the kitchen sink, because it was they'll throw anything in ice cream. It's everything but the cone,
right.
And there's 9 million ingredients. But Haagen-Dazs, actually, no, I think my dad he loved it because it was pretty simple. If they had one thing, it was like coffee with chocolate chips in it. Ooh, that's really daring,
Mm-hmm.
But, I can't believe we're talking so much about ice cream, but seriously, my parallel universe is one day having an ice cream store near a surfing break in Costa Rica. There you go.
Wow.
Well, that sounds like a good life.
Wow. Dang.
Hey, why not? You can come and visit.
I would, absolutely.
Sure. We'll go surfing, and then we'll hit the ice cream store.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, you'd rather do that because the other way around could get a little... queasiness,
yeah, not very good.
Could be a little on the not so good side. So what are you going to be doing Sunday for the 82nd birthday celebration? What are the plans a couple days from now?
Well, I'm thinking that my brother and I are probably going to grab a couple of guitars and our drummer and head to a place called Puckett's in Leaper's Fork, which is about 15 minutes from where I live. If you can imagine a little tiny southern one gas station town, that's Leaper's Fork. And they've got a place there called Puckett's General Store, and a lot of live music, like really serious musicians come in and out of there just because it's close to their house. And I'm thinking to do an impromptu kind of Ricky Nelson birthday show would be really fun to do at Puckett's. So that's my plan.
Cool. That's going to be fun. And
yeah,
every year you're doing that. Next year will be the 83rd, 84th after that. Are you having ice cream at the show, at the little performance?
I have. Absolutely. I have ice cream every day. No, I mean, not every day. But, why not? I think that's a good tradition. It's just, the thing is, I can't pie him. That's the bummer. I can't hit him with a pie.
Really?
But I'll definitely, tip a glass to him and have a little bit of ice cream afterwards.
Sounds good. It sounds like a fun day on Sunday. Weather should be, hopefully. No, it's going to be nice up here. What's it like down in Tennessee right now?
Well, we got a little bit of clouds, a little bit of wind, and occasional rainstorm and stuff like that. Which part of Wisconsin are you in right now?
The western part. So it's, it's weird. We've had a cold April, like really cold April, and then.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: next week, highs in the low 80s. Dew point's probably in the mid 60s. We're skipping past spring. We're already into summer next week, and we're all like, wait, what's going on here? Hang on.
So you're going to be out on the lake, is basically. I got you. I have family up in northeast Iowa, kind of near La Crosse, and so I get up there quite a bit, and they had snow, I think, this last week. It was craziness.
Well, as they like to say around here, the old saying in western Wisconsin, when my dad was alive, he'd always say, and it's not unique to him, everyone would say it, it's 3 months of summer and 9 months of or 3 months of restart. 9 months of winter, 3 months of bad sledding. That's the saying around here.
Oh, okay. I've never heard that one before, but I like that thing.
It's kind of true. It's an exaggeration, but it's kind of true around here. Where in northeast Iowa, by the way?
A little town called Waukon, which is near Decorah.
Yes.
You know?
I know Waukon very well because I went to college at Luther over in Decorah.
So my wife went to college at Luther.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Really?
That's so cool. Yeah, us Luther alums.
Are we going to talk about Paideia? Are you going to?
Yes. Okay, you're speaking.
What I'm talking about.
Yes, you're speaking my language now. That you have to be involved with Luther to know Paideia. Oh my gosh! What year did she graduate?
I don't. I have to ask her. I don't know. She's a little younger than I. She's 7 years younger than I am, but. She said it was first of all, it's a great campus,
yes.
And really it's pretty much an Ivy League level. I know you're an intelligent person because she is. She's sharp as a whip. But I love that town, and I love that part of the country just because it's called the Driftless, and
yes.
It's you actually have it's almost like high desert kind of vibe. You got hills, which is unique to Iowa, and it's more Wisconsin really if you think about it. And there are trout streams, and I'm a big fisherman, so I like to get up there and hang out and stuff. I'm kind of I'm up in that kind of northeast Iowa, lower Wisconsin area a lot, and I love it there.
It is so beautiful. I always love the drive down when we drive down to campus and we're coming straight south from an Eau Claire. So you drive through, and of course through Mississippi, and there's the bluffs and everything. So there's plenty of that. But the best part is you get into northern Iowa, and it actually gets flat for a little bit if you're going down Highway 52 from the north, and it's flat and flat and flat. And if I'm with someone who's never been there, they're like, "What, really? You're going to be on a plane here?" Just like, wait for it. And then the hill, then it starts to go down into the valley, and there's the campus, and it's like, this is in Iowa? Yes. It gets so...
It's like it's fantastic, a little Scandinavian town, and it's you can see all that Nordic kind of stuff, and they have Northfest and all this stuff. But, I actually spent a lot of time up there, and I choose to drive the 2.5 hours up to Minneapolis when I'm doing shows, because I think it's so beautiful, and I love Minneapolis anyways. I love that part of the country, and probably wind up living there at some point. But Gunnar and I we're releasing new music and stuff, and so we're going to kind of have to stick in Tennessee, in Nashville, for a little bit. I am enjoying the fact that there's no state tax here, folks. But you didn't hear that from me.
It's a draw. It definitely is. But I will say, it is absolutely gorgeous up here. And if you ever do settle around either Minnesota or western Wisconsin, I mean, you've been up here enough, but if you can handle the cold winters, you'll like it. Oh. You'll definitely like it up, and it doesn't get as hot and humid as it does down Tennessee. That's for sure. It a little bit, nothing like down there.
Well, you can see with Gunnar and I, we kind of look like Vikings. We are Nordic. We have we're Swedish, Austrian folks, so we like it cold. I'm pretty okay with it.
Good. Good.
I don't mind snow and cold. I'm good with it. Obviously, if you've been away from it, and you move out of there like my wife did, she's like, my blood has gotten very thin, because when you're up there, you can handle it a whole lot better. But it's the one thing she always wants to. I think we're going to be up there a little bit more, but she always says, "Man, when those winters hit, they are serious winters. Not kind of serious. It's cold."
Oh yeah.
Actually, Minnesota. It was Gunnar and I. It was minus 32 degrees once when we were there.
Yep.
And that's cold. That's not even that's serious cold.
Sounds about right. Oh yeah, it's extreme up here. It gets that way. So yeah, I mean.
Well, you know what I've noticed that people do. I'm a big car guy, and I like vintage cars and muscle cars, and then I restore them. And I've noticed that there's some amazing old cars up there because people spend so much time in the winters having to do something. So they usually pick a project, and by the time spring or summer roll around, they've got this beautiful thing that used to be a rust bucket that they've worked on for months in the garage. So I don't mind it.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing. We've adapted we adapt hard up here to that sort of stuff. We're a hardy bunch, and as a fellow Scandinavian compared to you guys, I'm a whole lot of Norwegian, like half Norwegian, a little bit of Swedish. So I'm in that same boat of like, yep, bring it on. I'm okay with it.
Bring it on.
It's
I can see how our ancestors found it and went, oh yeah, we're home.
Yeah,
we're home. We live here.
Last thing before I let you go, I can tell you by the way, have you ever been to Norway?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not. I want to go. Obviously, things are a little weird now. I'm probably gonna stick in the U.S. for the foreseeable future.
It might be a good idea, especially up yonder. I mean, if you get to Finland, it's getting a little too close for comfort. So, maybe just as well. But I can tell you, the one time I was there was on Luther College Nordic Choir from Luther College. They had a tour. And we went to Norway my senior year, and we're driving north of Oslo on our way to wherever we were going. Or no, we just landed. We're driving into Oslo, and the hills around that area looked almost like a carbon copy of what I see north of La Crosse in the Mississippi River Valley. And I've taken that route a million times. Yeah, and I remember looking around, going, okay, I get it. I see why the Norwegian settlers stayed here. Because it looks so much like where they're from. I get it.
You know what? It's funny. Thank you for confirming that, because I honestly thought that must have been what it was. This must look so much like home that when they got there, they went, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can see it too. I can see the rolling hills. I mean, I've seen the photos. I haven't been there personally, but I can see that very much so, especially kind of like where Luther College is. You kind of drop into that little valley and stuff, and you see it looks really like you're in little Switzerland or something.
It is.
It's bizarre,
it kind of is.
And now I'm getting homesick for my second home, so I got to get up there. Hopefully this summer we'll get up there and play some shows for you guys.
That would be good.
We're in Minnesota a lot.
Very good. Well, we'll keep an eye on the tour dates. Have a happy birthday celebration. Matthew Nelson talking about Ricky Nelson's 82nd birthday and all. This was a fun chat. All the best, and I'm sure I'll talk to you guys at some point down the road, and hopefully see you. Maybe we'll run into you at Luther at some point. I think the odds are there.
Maybe we will. We could go to the Whippy Dip and share some ice cream right down the street.
Yes,
but see, I know all your local haunts. Well, I'm going to say this. Listen, thank you for everything. I hope we get to do this again really soon. Tell your wife I hope she gets better. Don't sweat. It'll all come back. I'm glad you're healthy again, and take care of yourselves, and God bless.
All right. Same to you as well. All the best.